Some luxury cars depreciate a ridiculous amount, and in this video I'm talking to you about 5 in particular that I think are going to depreciate massively over the next few years. The kinds of cars that it's not worth buying right now, but in maybe 5-10 years time might be absolutely perfect. So don't forget to hit the like button if you like this video and subscribe as well if you're new here. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. So the first car on this list hasn't depreciated at all. In fact, it's selling for overs. Let me make that very clear. My expectation, based on every single generation beforehand, is that there is a massive depreciation potential for the new Range Rover Sport, which is a lovely car in many ways, but history tells us that those who buy them new or basically new may suffer the wrath of depreciation over the coming years. If you went for a D300 model, you'd be getting a diesel 3-litre twin turbocharged inline-6 mild hybrid, which makes 295 brake horsepower and will waft you to 60 in 6.4 seconds. New in 2023, these start at around £85,000 without spec options, but I easily got that to well over 100 grand with a few extra fiddly bits, and second hand with under 500 miles you'll get them for around £95,000. So as I said, no real depreciation yet, but people have only just started taking delivery of them. It is a lovely car and more minimalist than previous generations both outside and in, and already it's a popular car amongst people that are too wealthy for their own good. Despite the sport nameplate, sportiness really isn't this car's bag. It's all about being a comfortable, luxurious SUV with the image of wealth at its core. It's a shame then that literally every generation of the sport before it has depreciated like a market crash, and I honestly don't see that rule changing with this generation, irrespective of the hybrid edition. Part of this depreciation has come from reliability, as some owners have complained about quality control and generally over time end up costing a lot to maintain, but in the early years under warranty this really shouldn't be much of a problem. Next up we have the only electric car on the list, which arrived in 2019 for the 2020 model year, the Mercedes EQC, which genuinely is a nice looking luxury SUV that comes with 2 electric motors that make a combined 402 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 4.9 seconds. Not bad at all for a car that weighs in at almost 2,500 kilograms. And yet despite this performance, depreciation has been pretty aggressive, as a 2020 model year car would have been £88,000 new adjusted for inflation without any spec options, whereas now these would run you £40,000 at the bottom end, depreciation of around 18% per year and 54% total in just 3 years. This was the first car in the Mercedes electric EQ series, and as a luxury crossover SUV it shares its platform with the Mercedes GLC. It's just that instead of having an engine under the bonnet, those 2 electric motors sit above each axle, front and rear, to deliver power to all 4 wheels. Theoretically it can be charged from 10 to 80% with a fast charger in 40 minutes, which to me still feels like a ridiculously long time when compared to a stop for petrol or diesel, and sadly despite being at the forefront of Mercedes electric tech, it's in my opinion part of the reason why this depreciation has been so aggressive. I personally know a few owners who've all said the same thing: range is not so good, and it gets noticeably worse in winter when it's cold, and there are plenty of owners and reviewers that back this up. When you add on the infrastructure in the UK not yet offering the same levels of practicality for EVs as it does ICEs, it's easy to see why their resale value continues to be harassed. I have no idea how to feel about the Aston Martin DBX. I really like Aston Martin as a brand. I love a lot of their new stuff, particularly the Vantage, and when I see the DBX on the road, I'll admit it does look quite aggressive, but it just seems so out of character for the brand in a similar way to the Signet, just that the DBX isn't underpinned by a Toyota. Like the Signet though, prices have dipped massively quickly, as brand new in 2020 these would have cost you around £186,000, whereas today they've already dipped down to around £118,000 instead, which is unbelievable. That's a 37% decrease, or around 12% annually since release, but more importantly that's almost £23,000 you've lost per year. But for that money you are getting a 4-litre twin turbocharged V8 engine that makes 542 brake horsepower, which will take from 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds. Aston Martin actually designed the car with the sloping roofline and large wheels pushed to the extremities of the car to make it look smaller than it really is, but there's no escaping the fact that this is the largest Aston Martin ever, a full-size SUV, and the first full-size 5-seater Aston Martin ever. I think it'd be unfair of me to say it's not a nice looking car. I think in the right spec they can look properly cool, and I understand why luxury car brands are moving to make SUVs given the success Porsche had with the Cayenne that literally saved their business. But as the first gen, and in some cases the second gen Porsche Cayennes are now worth peanuts, the DBX looks to be going in the same direction. If the old Vantages and DB9s, which were some of the most sought after cars of their time, can now dip down to the £20,000 to £30,000 mark, I wouldn't be surprised the DBX found its way down there over the next 10 to 15 years. So if you guys enjoyed this video, if you want to see this video again at an actual price range, because these are just random cars, then do hit the like button. 1,000 likes and I'll make another video in this kind of region. And if you're new here, I make 2 videos every single week, so do subscribe for that. I've mentioned it before, but Maserati are renowned for their insane depreciation, especially when compared to other luxury brands, so much so that it's almost become a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. With this in mind, the Maserati Levante MC Edition is already beginning to suffer, as if you bought a base spec in 2022 for £140,000, you'd already see them selling this year with low mileage for around £105,000, which is just sad. You've lost £35,000 or 25% in the space of 1 year, more than any car on this list in terms of annual depreciation. That's not to say it's not a cool car, as it does come with a lovely 3.8 litre twin turbocharged V8 that produces 571 brake horsepower and does 0 to 60 in 4 seconds, matching the car at number 1 on this list in terms of pace. It's actually built on the Trofeo model of the car, which has dipped even lower than the rare MC edition, and this version was only released in 2022. It's an incredibly fast car, and in MC spec it's supposed to be a useful tool on track as well, as MC is used to refer to the brand's most performant cars. They are also focused on using the best materials, so the MC can get the carbon fibre package, which does look absolutely unbelievable, particularly on the interior where it merges luxury with race car vibes. Of course, all this is great, but the depreciation is so mental that I wouldn't consider buying one for at least a few more years until prices have dipped to typical Maserati levels. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 5 years we see these reaching the £50,000 mark or below, especially when you look at how the 83k examples when new from 2017 are now down to under £30,000. Taking the top spot by merit of its absolutely ridiculous power output is the Bentley Bentayga, 599 brake horsepower to be exact, thanks to its 6 litre twin turbocharged W12 engine, all meaning it'll get to 60 in 4 seconds like the Levante. I've used the Bentley Continental GT in plenty of former videos on cheap luxury cars, and the Bentayga looks to be going in the same direction, given since it hit the roads in 2016 it's already dropped in price by almost 66%, with annual depreciation of over £19,000. To really show the damage, adjusted for inflation when new, these were £204,000 in base spec, whereas now you can get them starting around £70,000, which is just mental. And yes, all 5 cars in this video have been SUVs, which I think tells you something about the depreciation of these larger cars. And of all 5 of these luxury SUVs on this list, this is probably the most luxurious, and in the battle between Bentley and Rolls-Royce, I do genuinely think it's a nicer looking car than the Cullinan. I would rather have the Cullinan though, as it's a more ridiculous car in terms of levels of luxury, plus the long-term values are that much better, given the Cullinan's used prices have pretty much followed the brand new price of the car adjusted for inflation. It's actually crazy, isn't it? Ignoring spec options, if you got enough cash to buy a Cullinan, you can almost buy and sell the car for the same amount of money and lose nothing beyond ownership costs, whereas the Bentley you'd have lost £130,000 in real terms. And sadly, I do think that is because in part Bentley is owned by VW, and therefore the car shares the same platform as cars like the Cayenne, Q8 and Urus, which takes away from how bespoke the car is. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'd love to know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my picks. Are these actually going to depreciate, or do you think they are actually surefire to stay and hold their value? Massive thanks to the patrons as always for their support, and to you as well for watching. And if you want to watch a video on why Porsche in particular started this trend of making these crazy luxury SUVs, then do click up here and subscribe as well down here.